Welcome back to Political Roundtable. Doug Miles along with Gary Schuster, and we're going to talk a little bit now about the political unrest that we've seen in the last year. Gary, I mean, there's always a grassroots political movements, but I've never seen quite like this. We had the Tea Parties that happened last summer and throughout the fall, and that really has caused a lot of people maybe to get involved in politics that never were before, right?
Well, I sort of heard that, as I mentioned earlier, about the Massachusetts Senate race for Kennedy's open seat. They're calling it the Boston Tea Party.
Right.
Because the Republican candidate is going out, really being a grassroots kind of candidate, going to the western part of the state, places where they normally don't see candidates too much. Mm-hmm. I mean, I lived in Boston for 4 years, and you don't see those candidates get out too much. They basically bank on the Boston and the Boston environs, right, doing the voting and doing the supporting. The western part of the state is not so easily gotten to because of mountains and other things, and especially now in the winter with all this storm, they flooded some of those western Massachusetts towns to see this this Republican candidate. And so there is some of that going on around the country, that being the most recent and most obvious, but there are other sites.
And people are fed up. I mean, they saw a huge amount of spending by the government that now you can say Republicans did it too, and they did when they were in there, but it seems to be a lot more now, and I think people are waking up with that the trillions of dollars of debt now, aren't they?
Yeah, you had the unrest a year ago when Obama was running against McCain. Mm-hmm. Everybody thought, okay, Obama gets in, that's the end of that, they're going to fix this thing. Hasn't happened. There's still unrest. There's still people who are unhappy with the way these things are developing. And I don't think we've seen the end of this because of the sort of the makeup of the parties now.
Right.
You know.
Let's talk about some more local politics here on the west coast of Florida. We have some interesting elections. It's always fun when they have the congressional election. This year, Vern Buchanan up for election again, the 13th district, which encompasses Sarasota and Bradenton for the most part. And not necessarily his competition may be that difficult. It's going to be James Golden this year, but maybe some financial problems for Vern Buchanan. What do you think?
Could be, although he's, I think, the 6th wealthiest House member, and so he could support himself if he needed to, I think. I think, though, that you're going to see, I see Insta polls he does now. He's sending Insta polls to people.
A lot of email.
A lot of email. He's riding this DNA thing for criminals who are incarcerated and make sure that they have their blood type and the DNA taken. He's staying out in front on this, not too much, but quite a bit. I do know that this particular congressional district down here is the largest number of senior citizens in any congressional district in the country, totaling somewhere in the neighborhood of 750,000 senior citizens. He is playing to that advantage, especially on this health care bill that a lot of people are not in favor of. And he's, of course, voted with the Republicans as a steady vote against what they're doing. But I think because of his own wealth and his own using his franking privileges and the email and the other things he's done, he'll probably
taking advantage of it.
Yeah, he'll probably. Yeah, well, you have to if you're an incumbent.
Sure.
And he's doing that, and I think by and large he'll probably pull this off.
No, yeah, not necessarily that he didn't have money in his own pocket, but just the way he was raising money the last time around caused some questions, and that's pretty much the only chance I think that the Democrats might have. But I don't think really they have any chance right now to win this seat,
They have not set this up as a seat that's a possibility for them, like they have others.
4 years ago, when it was open, it was very close.
Right.
When Jennings ran the first time, last time it wasn't even close.
No. So I think now that he's been in, a couple of terms, he's sort of here as long as he wants to be, probably.
Right.
That's the way these things go. The way they're set up, the districts are cut so that the incumbent has
a little bit of gerrymandering, perhaps.
Yeah, has a lot better chance of staying.
Yeah.
There's
and nothing necessarily wrong with that, but that's the way it goes.
Then we get into term limits.
Yes. Well, we'll talk about that in another program. Let's talk about the Florida Senate seat. Mel Martinez, of course, retiring before his term was up. Lemieux took over, appointed by Governor Christ, but he will not be running again. And it should be kind of interesting. You have Governor Christ perhaps running. He has not officially announced that, but you have Mark Rubio I think he's only like 31 years old, part of state government
House
for a
member.
long time, House
Right.
member. And another man, that a friend of ours, been with us on radio many times, Senator Bob Smith, right here in our part of the
Former
country
New Hampshire
here,
U.S. Senator.
which would be a very unique situation if he happened to win, a senator from two different states. How do you see that race right now?
Well,
This is the Republican side we're talking
yeah,
about.
I think that I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. Just the numbers of polls that are taken, sort of quickie polls, like up in St. Petersburg and in Pinellas County. You'd think because that's the Governor Chris' home district that he would do well.
Right.
It's his hometown, it's where he lives when he's not in Tallahassee. Not doing as well as he probably should have. So there's unrest. There's unrest there as well, and he got in a lot of trouble for giving a sort of a good guy hug to Obama when he came down before. You remember the pictures?
Right.
What's he doing? Embracing Obama. It carried more than just the
A visual
embrace.
like that.
It was
Sure.
an embracing of almost policy rather than the person.
Right.
And so he's gotten some hot water for that, and. I've noticed about Chris, unlike a lot of other politicians, he does not fire back. When Rubio says something to him or about him or raises some issue, Chris and his handlers don't do much about it. It's like they think it's going to go away, but it's not. So it's going to be, I think, a lot closer than people think.
And you almost have to in politics fire right back, don't you?
In a
If you don't, you're perceived as soft, right?
In a 24-hour news cycle, it used to be that you had a day to think about it. You don't anymore. You got 20 minutes. And you got to be on something someplace saying something,
Right.
usually against whatever the person said, just to hold your place. Because if you don't, they're going to come out and fire. If they see that you haven't done that, the other side, they'll come back at you. Then you're down too.
Right.
And a team that's down 3-4 runs
Tough to make up
has
points.
a tough time coming back. So
Especially late in the campaign.
I think they're just the Chris side just seems a little reluctant and unsure about how to respond.
Talking about Senator Smith, we mentioned before, if he did happen to win, it would be the first time a senator would have been a senator from two different states. But he's been going around the state doing a lot of interviews. I've kept track of him, newspapers and radio stations, some television. But so far, you don't see his name in any of the polls. Is there a problem getting traction, you think? I mean, it's a unique situation for him.
I think there is, and I don't think people are taking him seriously. And I don't know how he corrects that. He's sort of the forgotten man.
Right.
And
if he did win, he'd be the eighth seniority Republican, he said, which would be something Florida needs if you believe in what he believes in.
Sure. But first of all, you got to get there.
Right.
And he's having trouble. I don't know what his fundraising is, but my guess is he's having as much trouble.
Pretty much grassroots over the internet.
As he is getting attention.
Right. Interesting to see. We'll hopefully get him on and talk on one of our programs real soon. But let's talk a bit about the governor race coming up. Bill McCallum looks like he's going to run, right?
Yeah, Bill McCallum is the Attorney General for the state now, was a U.S. House member, was a congressman from Florida, and came back and is now Attorney General and has done an all right job, I guess. He's only been in, a short time. Probably running against Alex Sink. Alex Sink is a woman who is basically the state's chief financial officer, and those two seem to be ready to square off and have already had a little jousting in the last 3-4 months over some other issues on use of state airplane and a number of other things. And so it seems as though they are, even in cabinet meetings, it said, are contentious towards one another. So my guess is that's where it comes down. It'd be an interesting race, I think. And McCallum's a statewide campaigner and has done it before, for the Attorney General's race, and besides that has his congressional background. So it'll be a good race. It'll be
It's going to be fun here in Florida, isn't it?
Busy state.
The next several months. We'll take a short break. We'll come back and we'll talk about President Obama's first term. Gary will give his thoughts on the good, the bad, the ugly of what President Obama has done. We'll also talk maybe a little bit about the late-night TV wars, since that kind of is a cultural of interest. You're listening to Political Roundtable here with Doug Miles and Gary Schuster. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.